Alright, so in today's video, I got the Platinum Trophy on Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, more formally known as COD 4 for those out there who are old. But this is pretty much the only COD game I haven't platinumed on the PS5 that doesn't have a ton of online trophies inside of it, making it very possible to do still in 2025. You do have to purchase it off of the PS Store online and not on the PS5 console, however, which is very odd. It always shocks me how much PlayStation likes to gatekeep their own games from us. It's actually crazy. Also, the channel is almost at 1 million subs, and if we hit that, I have to platinum Fortnite, so make sure to drop a like and subscribe to torture me. But Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered has a total of 51 trophies, including the Platinum Trophy. The guide places it at a 5 out of 10 difficulty, mostly due to that veteran mode, which is pretty rough. It also says the game takes about 30 hours to complete, which is kind of BS because it only took me 10, and I didn't skip anything, so yeah, that's awesome. But starting off today, seeing as this is an entirely campaign-based trophy list, there's only 2 stages, with the first one being to do the story on veteran and get all the intel inside of it, and the second stage being a cleanup. The campaign kicks off with a training mission like quite a few other old COD games have. You get introduced to the game's base mechanics, do a practice course that unfortunately does have a time limit trophy on it, which is quite difficult to achieve later on. But then you finish that fast tutorial and the first trophy of the game pops from that. They also told me to play in recruit because my time trial sucked that bad. However, I chose veteran and it's now time to die. So kicking off the story for real this time, the first mission had the boys infiltrating a cargo ship after some intel they received that was on it. There really wasn't too much combat until getting inside the ship, which then began the onslaught of enemies onto us. This game's campaign has a surprisingly challenging veteran difficulty, by the way. It's not anywhere near as bad as Call of Duty World at War, but I would say it's definitely harder than the recent few years of COD games for sure. Also, as I was playing throughout this game's campaign, I was following an intel guide from PowerPix. Shout out to the legend, thanks for that. But eventually we did make it to the end of the ship and found the cargo container we were after. Inside there wasn't much, but we did retrieve a manifest of importance. And then everything went to hell in COD campaign style, with explosions, us running for our life, child support flying by us as the fire raged on, and you have to jump for your life, barely making it to safety on the helicopter flying away. The ship is no longer with us. She battled on my ship till I sink, on God. But that then did give me 2 trophies, one for just infiltrating the cargo ship and another for doing it on veteran difficulty. And fun fact, not every single mission in this game needs to be done on veteran. There is also a glitch to do them all in recruit and still get the trophies, but I did not do either of those because I am Its Illusion.
Oh my god!
Anyways, moving on, there was a quick little scene showing us this dude getting drove in a car, then executed very suddenly by the game's first villain we got introduced to, named Khalid Al-Assad. Sounds like the type, just saying. But this sets up some future story because the game kind of has a split story happening, which was very cool to see. Before that got going though, we were still with Price and the boys doing more stealth as you do. Our goal was to just meet up with some nice Russians, however, which was a first. The last time I met up with Russians, a certain airport was involved. If you know, you know. But then once you do meet the Russians, we kind of team up and lay siege on this town below that was under assault. You get to cosplay as a sniper for the most part of it, which was a W. I love killing people without the threat of being killed myself. What can I say? I'm an American. However, once we did get thrown into the fire, it was not fire at all. I got molested on the field and I regret my choices of not doing the veteran glitch now. This mission was fairly quick though, and you just infiltrate this house with night vision, capture some dude, then exfil out in the same fashion as almost every mission in this game. I got 2 more trophies as well from this, which were the same as before, a story trophy and a veteran story trophy. It's kind of a trend in this game. But then I would go some time without any more trophies because, like I said, you don't get a trophy for every single mission in the game, just the key ones in the eyes of the developers. But we did also end up playing that split story after, like I mentioned, and we were deep in the Middle East where fun things are always happening. The objective on this one, however, was to raid this radio station where the terrorists were broadcasting a very threatening and bad message to the masses. This mission is also the first where death became a common thing and I died repeatedly. It was kind of awful. And I really wish I streamed it because I bet it would have been hilarious with me just losing it every time another man with a scarf deep-throated me with his AK-47 bought from the Kmart. So if you guys want to see me get tortured live, I'll stream the World at War Platinum on this channel. I finally bought a PS3, so I'm going to start doing some videos on there soon. And if this video hits 10k likes, I'll stream the World at War Platinum for you all to consume.
I love you, bitch.
Anyways, as I was getting abused, I ended up killing an enemy while being blinded by a flashbang, and I just sort of did it on accident, to be honest. The flash was also very weak, so I'm kind of shocked that this trophy did pop here, but it still did. And I wasn't lying when I said this mission sucked. It lasted forever because I just could not make it through this big fight in the radio station's main room. However, this did lead me to really prioritize patience though, and I was avidly aiming at heads since you need to pop dudes as soon as possible when in their sights or else you're going to get dropped. And this led me to nailing 4 enemies in a row with headshots for the trophy pop right here. But then we did just just finally make it past that, and then it's basically mission over. You storm the actual broadcast room on the top floor. You find nobody in there because obviously the broadcast was being looped. Not sure how we didn't notice that, but it's fine. I got another trophy anyways. The following mission was then another big war mission, and it's kind of funny the contrast of story arc in this game, which is also a very sincere approach. You have the Marine story side where they just get f***ed the entire time, and then you have the Price storyline where we were just sneaking around smoking cigars. I was unaware that the social pyramid existed even in war. Amazing. But there was a missable trophy on this mission. There's actually a lot of these throughout the game, by the way. They aren't really missable though, since you can just use chapter select, and this game does have a really good chapter select system. But in this one right now, there was a trophy from saving Private Roykowitz on these stairs. No clue who this dude is or what this is a reference to, but the enemy also didn't know who he was either because the dude just came charged at me with fury and rage. Upon dropping him, the trophy did pop. After some more fighting and dying in this mission, you then end up near an overpass, and there's another trophy gotten here from destroying all 4 tanks on the overpass with the javelin you got given. And I'm not sure if this is a story or not, but I did destroy them all and got another trophy anyways. The rest of the mission then had us just fight people for the most part and protect this tank that was being targeted. It got pretty rough again, but I did find this strategy when you're getting severely to just stop trying and lay down pretending to be dead. You then let your nearby AI teammates do the work, which usually honestly did work. After the fighting stopped, we then finished the current mission and another story trophy popped. You then swap back to play as Price's storyline, and immediately there was a trophy from shooting these enemies who were threatening a poor farmer in the local village. Upon saving the farmer, the trophy popped. Now this mission is one of the hardest in the game because of this damn helicopter that follows you throughout its entirety, and it's just raining down bullets on you from miles away, pretty much hitting every single shot. But there was yet again another trophy, and it was just from killing at least 3 enemies rappelling down from it before we did begin to get abused too much. Now speaking of abuse, it finally began to happen, and I died so many times during this mission that I have a considerably large amount of B-roll footage of me dying. It was a lot of fun. I loved every single second of it. I'm just kidding. This shit was ass. And what makes it even worse is that this mission does not give you any trophies from beating it initially. So I did it on veteran just for the love of the game, motherfucker. It did end off with us blowing up everybody though, so W taxpayer dollars. I love how 78% of my YouTube money goes to AC-130s on God. And speaking of AC-130s, the next mission had us control one. And I'm not gonna lie, this couldn't have been any worse quality. More pixels, sir. Please, please give me more pixels. I guess considering this game came out forever ago and we have been blessed with new gen titles having clear AC-130s, it's not a huge issue, but this mission could have slapped so hard if I knew at all what the hell I was shooting at. But despite my blindness, it didn't stop me from killing 5 enemies with 1 shot, and here's a trophy from doing that. But then you do quite literally just sit in the AC-130 and man the guns for the rest of the mission. It's kind of fire on second thought, and upon finishing it, 2 trophies did pop, so yes, I am simping for this mission now that it gave us more trophies. Anyways, you then go back to the war and had a very heavy combat mission, which is a trend in the storyline as I've already said. But this one was pretty rough and it took me quite some time to claw my way past all the enemies. There also wasn't much else that happened besides just war crimes and no trophies got popped. However, once you do make it past everyone, you then just exfil on a helicopter and they did reward us then, which was nice to see. And during the following mission, I also reached the midway point for intel and I found 15 out of 30, which gave me a trophy called Look Sharp. And boy do I wish all games just had 30 collectibles. That would have saved my fall to insanity for sure. I also did get another trophy on this mission from killing 20 enemies with explosions in a single level, which was very easy because we were shooting explosive rounds out of the helicopter, so W cheat code. And here's that trophy. I then just finished that mission because it was very short, and we got another trophy, but only after a giant explosion happened that lit up the night sky. How glorious. The next mission was then back to Price, and it was called Safe House, one of the most challenging missions in his questline arc. But the main goal is to go through all these houses in this little village and just clear them of enemies as we search for that Al-Assad guy from earlier, who was the main villain so far in the story. And clearing the houses kind of sucked balls because you could just get dropped by a man hiding in a corner so damn easy it was a joke. However, upon finding Al-Assad, he was just in the furthest back house. Predictable. But yeah, Price interrogates him and we just kind of watched an execution occur. Love to see it, Daddy Price. He also gave us 2 trophies, so I'm definitely buying the Captain Price OnlyFans when it drops.
What did he say?
But then you begin this story arc with a dude named Macmillan, and he has the hardest missions in the game by far, without a doubt. First, you begin by just stealthing around enemies, trying to get up to this vantage point to snipe a high target enemy. On the way though, I did f*** up immediately, as you can see, and a dog attacked me. But I survived it surprisingly, which gave me a trophy. The next trophy I got was then for completing the mission we were on without alerting any enemies. And obviously, I did alert them, but I guess if you die or restart checkpoint, it doesn't count towards that, and they have to be alerted upon you finishing the mission or something. I have no clue, to be honest, but here's a trophy trophy anyways. So then you do begin the actual hard part of his story arc, and it starts off relatively challenging with us having to snipe this Dewey we were after. I missed a ton because of the wind speed, so I resulted to just unloading my entire mag, and it worked out great. But then you do have to escape the enemies, and a time limit is also given. The time limit isn't really the issue, it's just not dying, because Macmillan also gets injured, and you have to carry the motherfucker for the rest of the mission on your shoulders through enemy lines getting chased. I can't even say how many times I died because I can't count that high. I had a small town public school education, it's not my fucking fault. But at the ending of this, after you carry him, you have to stash this guy in some bushes behind the Ferris wheel, and you sort of set up a big last stand as exfil comes in from a few kilometers away. Now this on its own is already insanely hard because, spoiler, enemies just infinitely spawn in to kill you. And I'm not just saying that since I died a lot and it felt like infinite enemies. They literally are infinite. You cannot kill them all. But what made this even worse is I was going after all the intel on this mission, and there was a certain intel piece that you cannot get unless you're hiding inside of an enemy spawn off to the back left of the map we are in, because the intel is shoved inside of an enemy spawn and enemies have to come through to open the doors. So I had to sit there and just kind of get f***ed repeatedly by the enemies. It was a genuine challenge. Eventually, after like an hour of death, I did figure out a good method, and it should just not hide. Yeah, you gotta look your problems in the face and tell them to f*** off by sniping them over and over. This works in real life also, just don't bring a gun is my best advice. Eventually the fighting died down and I did run and grab the intel, but then the second stage of this is to pick up Macmillan again and then take him to the helicopter, which is where I found even more pain in because there was no way in hell I was making it all the way back to him, picking him up, then walking back to the helicopter before getting shot or the helicopter just leaving, which led me to Google some strategies, and I ultimately found this one that just had us go prone in this little shack because grenades and enemies cannot hit you through it. Occasionally a grenade will fall in, but you can just throw it back pretty easily. And then all that is left is to get a bit lucky with the exfil. Making it to Macmillan is still a challenge, but this is by far the best method of beating this very hard combat section. Once you do get Macmillan on your shoulders though and make it around the Ferris wheel, you're pretty much safe because the exfil does have our boys on it helping the defense, and upon stepping in, you succeed. The helicopter finally takes us out of this hellscape, and 2 trophies popped, thank the Lord above. Anyways, the next mission was also kind of ass, but there wasn't any trophies from it, so I'm just going to skim past it because it was pretty basic. It just had combat the entire time. But the mission after, we got introduced to the game's real villain named Imran Zakiv. In the mission I am on right now, I had us chasing after his son, who goddamn was a great runner. Bro must have loved Subway Surfers on drop. And you chase him through numerous buildings, numerous fights, floors, until reaching the very top of this one, and he just drops himself. What a run, lad. But that also did pop me 2 trophies, and all it costed was 1 life. Get it? Because he f***ing died. Anyways, we were then on the last mission or so, and these are all very hard, but only because of the time constraint that is very prevalent throughout it. I mean, the counter is just blaring into our soul like the Eye of Sauron for the entire mission. The enemies here were also very, very good, and I died so many times, it was ridiculous. I got very upset, I'll admit it, but the time limit was counting down for missile launches that we had to stop from launching, and also putting in the special code kills the missiles in the air already that have launched. Now, if we don't do that in time, the world ends. Okay, I don't know if it actually ends, but Lady Liberty might not be there. And like I said, I just died over and over. There really wasn't too much else to it. The best strategy I found was to play very careful but very quick. Also making sure to use grenades more than I have been, because cooking them and then throwing them as you pick a corner is very effective, seeing as enemies like to just camp the shit out of corners in this mission. Ultimately though, in the final area, the final piece of intel was also there, and I grabbed it, getting my 30th out of 30 and nailing out that trophy finally. But then you do put in the codes and it saves us all from the missiles. How nice. We did still have to escape the facility though, which wasn't that bad, but it did have more combat as you would expect. Upon leaving, it ends the mission and the story trophy pops. The final mission then began in the game. This one had us primarily just on a car trying to escape the evil enemies as we were getting chased, and I did die a lot because of my very good car aim, but it ends with us on this bridge, and the ending is honestly kind of mid. Some dude next to me got dropped hard as shit, and I literally said to myself, he's about to get shot in the head before he did. But then we were also about to see the same fate, and Price threw us a gun to take out Zakiv, which I did do by just shooting him in the face. Then all of the good Russians we were teamed up with just show up to save the day. Mid-ass ending, but hey, it popped a ton of trophies regardless, so W. Now before beginning the cleanup stage of this game, I did go and do the last story trophy called Mile High Club from doing this bonus plane level on Veteran. And this is the hardest mission in the game by far, but it's not really a story mission since it is a bonus level. And I'm not gonna lie, I was very burnt out from Veteran at this point, so I did use the glitch. It was shameless, and it worked without issues with the trophy popping. I know, I should be ashamed, but I don't feel any, so suck my r/trophies. Anyways, moving on, I then began the cleanup of the game, and I decided to start with getting the record time in the ship training that I mentioned earlier. I have done a ton of these in games, from Modern Warfare 2 to Titanfall 2, both having time trial training course trophies, and the only real strategy or advice for these is always to just do them over and over and over, and you'll eventually get it. We were very blessed with this one being a very short one, only taking like 15 seconds to complete, opposed to Titanfall 2's Gauntlet being like a minute plus. So I just tried this over and over, eventually getting both trophies, and it really wasn't that bad. I did come in my pants though upon getting the record time, however, so Infinity Ward's playtesters can suck it also. But then I did really just dive into stage 2 of the cleanup trophy stage. First doing a trophy called Your Show Sucks, from going back to the broadcast mission and destroying every TV in there that was broadcasting the terrorist propaganda. I also watched this video from PS5 Trophies to help just in case I couldn't do it myself. I did get a first try though, which was awesome. Here's a trophy. I then got a kill from stabbing an injured person crawling away. Kind of brutal, can't lie. I also killed 2 enemies by blowing up a car, shot down an enemy helicopter with an RPG, and I destroyed all 8 enemy helicopters in the heat mission I skimmed over from earlier. I then got one more quick combat trophy from stabbing 3 enemies in a row, although I definitely did more than 3, but we won't talk about it. There was then a bit of a difficulty trophy I went after called Time Paradox, from killing Makarov and completing the mission. This is that sniper level with Macmillan from earlier, but you have to both snipe the main target, then swap over to Makarov, who is the main villain in other COD games if you don't remember. And it is kind of a fun Easter egg, but hitting both shots took me a minute due to the wind. You know, it really must have been the wind is a true saying right now, and that's funny. Anyways, I was then back to the farming, getting a kill 20 times on a dog with a knife. I feel shame, but hey, those fuckers would bite your nuts off. I then completed any level without reloading a weapon, and I also did this by just using a knife the entire time, which was also a trophy called Master Ninja, getting both pops after doing the very first level in the game, so that's cool. I then played that heat mission again, and if you climb this church tower, you'll find a bunch of rocket launchers. You then just have to shoot them all, and a trophy pops called the Man in the High Tower. I only had one more random trophy left at this point, and it was called Man vs. Machine, which was sort of hard to get, but you had to alert this helicopter back in those horrible Macmillan missions, and then take it down with a javelin, which took 2 shots by the way because it deflects the first one, so that's awesome. Wish I knew that before resetting checkpoint 6 times. Anyways, once destroying it, the trophy pops. So I now only have 3 more trophies: Desert Storm, Weapon Master, and the Platinum, obviously. But we were really just going after Weapon Master from using each type of gun and getting a kill with it. And the Desert Storm trophy I just did as I was going through the guns because it's from using the Deagle and getting 5 kills with it, which is very easy. But I want to say a huge thanks and shout out to the guide creator of this game's trophy guide on PSN Profiles for laying out the unlikely used guns, because they were really all I was missing, so I just quickly went through them. And I used all of the red ones, evidently getting the trophy upon using the final LMG, and the trophy pop from that with the Platinum as well. So that was the Modern Warfare Remastered Platinum Trophy experience. Overall, I think the game was a lot of fun. Yes, it was hard, but it was a fun time regardless. And I low-key hate to say it, but damn, I love platinuming COD games. They're like the perfect balance between fun gaming, high action, and hard trophies. It's just a great balance that a lot of games don't have. But again, if you want to see me platinum World at War live, then get this video to 10k likes. I'm platinuming the game regardless here soon, but hey, I might as well ask. Anyways, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, boys, and million on the way.